I remember one time we were trying to mix it up and we had Olivia up there. So we do two announcers, like I'll announce the first two straights and he'll announce the next two. So we try to like make it fun, announce all the kids. And then Olivia was up on the hill with us, and we were like, "All right, I want you to give us a random word." So we have a random word generator. She clicked the button, and it would show a word, and be like, "Okay, in these first two straights, you got to somehow fit this word into, the into the race." It was hilarious, doing that. So that's super fun to do. Then Albert gets a word, and then he's got to try and mix it in somehow, in the racing. So that's a
That's
fun thing
fantastic.
to keep it new and exciting, because even when I'm up there announcing, like I'll catch myself like I have said the same freaking phrase or something or the same thing for the last five races or whatever. So let's throw in something to make my mind go a different way or something too. So
BMX Breakthrough is bridging the gap from old school to new school, from tracks to manufacturers, from new riders to their local tracks, and it doesn't stop at racing, but the mission is to connect people with bikes. Join me, Jay Oaks, as I interview key people in the sport and in the industry that are involved in their local circles, in their communities, at their local tracks, and aiming to make a difference on a local level. You'll hear stories, marketing tips, failures, successes, and a way to make a difference in your local BMX community. Let's dive in as we kick off this next episode.
Right on. Well, Nick, I'm super excited to have a conversation with you, and I think it's interesting because I think I say I'm super excited at the beginning of almost every episode because I truly am, and I'm excited about all the different conversations that I get to have because they are truly unique, and there's so many humans within the sport of BMX. You and we met back in 2022, I think,
yeah.
and that was, I mean, just the kind of the beginning of this. But let's start out. Let's talk about who you are, because you've done some really cool things, and you're such an awesome human in the sport, in and out of the sport. But Nick, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a current track operator at Bend BMX. I kind of fell into that position now maybe 6 years ago, something like that, is kind of when it all happened. But ultimately, like getting into the BMX realm of things and how that all started. When I was a kid, I raced from like when I was 12 to about 16. So, started off as a novice, literally first lap around the track, sitting on my bike, sitting down on the seat, hitting the double at the end and flying off the bike and crashing was my first experience, on a BMX track. So super, super novice, super beginner, just going out there and seeing how it all works. And then, moved up to intermediate and then into expert and stuff like that. Grew up with a single mom, so didn't have like a ton of funds to go to all the nationals and do the whole, national scene type situation. We just go to the local ones, and that was in Chandler, Arizona. So that's where I kind of grew up racing, was out in Chandler. And then after that, I kind of was still, dirt jumping, riding bikes, that type of stuff. Always being around a bicycle, but kind of just got out of the racing aspect of it. And then fast forward about, I don't know, 20 years or so. Um, I, was here in Bend and ended up here in Oregon, and then realized that there was a BMX track in Bend, Oregon. And I was like, man, I used to race. Like it'd be fun to kind of go out there. I told my buddies who I actually grew up in Arizona with, who live here also in Bend, that I was going to go out there. And they're like, oh man, yeah, we're not going to do that, And I was like, well, cool. I'm just going to go check it out. So I went out there. I had an old cruiser or something, took that out there and had a blast. And then I called my buddies and I was like, dude, we can do this again. Like we can totally get on bikes and race again. And they're like, no, no, no. And I'm like, yeah, just come out there, come out to the track. So I bring them out there the next day. They're buying bikes, and then we started freaking traveling everywhere and battling each other and racing and crashing left and right and just having a blast. And that spiraled all into helping out at the track and then them needing someone to run it. So that's kind of how we got introduced to it and got involved. And ever since then, we've just been running the track and trying to make things better and make it grow. So it's been pretty cool.
Right on. Well, I mean, you're definitely taken some strides. I can't speak to what the track was like before that, but I mean, you guys have a really cool facility, which is I'm sure a lot of conversations and a lot of hard work that has gone into developing that relationship with the city. But yeah, it's a cool facility, and then it's been cool hearing some of the stories and just the response that people had. One of the things that stood out to me when we went out to Bend was the the diversity of stories that you had within your track and the different ages that were represented, and you didn't have a big concentration of just one age. It was a ton of different age ranges because you've got college age, you've got parents, you've got striders, you've got all the range of that. When I was out there, I was on my 99 GT Speed Series, and you guys recognized that. And obviously, your history in the sport speaks to why that was, but not every track recognized or even knew what my bike was or when it was from. And so it's been cool to watch. One of the things that you said that I wanted to talk about was you said you like fell into the role of TO, and I don't know what does that account for, like something like 90% of track operators that are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody sets out to do a thankless job, but so many end up doing it. So, on behalf of people that don't say it, thank you to you,
Yeah.
and thank you to the other TOs that step in. But so you're doing an awesome job, and I think one of the cool things is that you got tossed into this and you just decided, no, we're going to do this 100%. We're going to do this as well as we can. Um, but what was the I guess the lead up to it, because that's probably a story for that so many people have familiarity with, the lead up to becoming that TO and just you seeing that need to step into.
Yeah, so the way that it actually kind of worked was, so there was a build day out there. They like posted something where, hey, we're going to build something new in the rhythm section. If anyone wants to come out and help, that would be great. So me and two buddies went out there to help, and the truck operator at the time was out there, and we had a skid steer. We were kind of messing around with the skid steer, learning how to use it and to build a new feature in the middle of the rhythm section. So we got that rhythm section kind of going. And then track operator at the time kind of left. He's like, all right, I'm gonna leave you guys here. You kind of seem like you know what you're doing, get this dialed in and whatnot. So we do that. And then going into turn two, there was this really small double that was like so small, and it was just a horrible kind of situation, and we're just like, oh, this thing is ridiculous. Let's, we have the skid steer here. Why don't we scoop some dirt around the area and make this into like a triple and make it, something, just a new feature. So we start doing that, and we're out there all night long. We build this triple. And then the TO comes out the next morning, and he was like, what's this? We were like, oh, well, we thought, we were just helping out, making something cool for the track, because we were riders. So we were just wanted to build something fun. And he was like, I don't really like you going behind my back and building this stuff or whatever. And we're like, well, we were just thought we were helping, and we thought we are making it better, and stuff like that. So that situation, kind of, he was a little bit upset, at first. And I was like, I get it, like I understand his thought process, but I was like, this is kind of ours. We're trying to make the track better. We didn't know that, we are gonna get upset about it. So he was upset about it. And then practice comes the next day, and all the kids are super excited about it. And they're like, oh, this is awesome, blah, 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 and he was like, hey, I think that's, he's like, hey, sorry for kind of getting on you guys about that. I like what you guys did. And then he's like, maybe you guys should just take this thing kind of over and, even maybe more passionate about it and stuff like that. And we're like, yeah, sure, we could, maybe do that. So really, it just ultimately became, it was us three guys who grew up racing bikes together as kids, creating cool stuff, that we thought was fun, for kids and for the track. And so we would go out there and we would just start changing things and always updating stuff. And then we didn't in our mind, we didn't think like, oh, we're doing this to build a big community, like all this stuff is going to start happening because of it. We just did it because we loved the sport. We wanted to make cool things, and we raced each other, and other people kind of liked it. And then it kind of hit us. I remember one day had all these kids out there, and me and my buddy Atul like looked at each other like, man, look at all these kids out here, like this is just wild, all the stuff that's been happening. And then it kind of brought me back to my childhood, and how I knew him because of BMX. And then you see all these kids that are starting to like create friendships. And then my son has all these friends, that he does things with even outside of BMX racing. So it's like this big community that you're building or that we were building without really knowing that it was happening until we took a step back and like looked at it from another perspective. So it was kind of cool how it all just, kind of came to fruition without us even thinking about it. So that was pretty cool as far as the early days of it.
That's cool.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's funny hearing the story of going in and you mentioned that you can see and understand why he was irritated. And it's funny because even at the point of doing that, it's like you don't even have the excuse anymore of like just being a dumb kid. You're like
Right.
actually an adult. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But
But I think BMX brings your mind back to that dumb kid. We're like, no, this would be cool. And then you're like, wait a minute. But
where was the adult here to tell us to slow down?
exactly. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
I love that. Yeah, I think the community aspect of BMX is really cool, and the ability for community to form and for new riders to start coming in and being drawn to that because we know crowds attract crowds. And so it seemed like there was something that was happening and there was momentum that was coming. And I think I had got there, I don't know, it was like just after one of your rebuilds because I know that you had the big Bend letters, but I
Yep.
think you were saying, and that would have been like right after you guys had your Pro Start gate installed as well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was about right. Maybe 2002. I think it was installed out there.
Oh,
And
okay.
yes. So I think it
Oh,
came right after that, if I believe. I mean, the years just seem to
or
go into each other, a little bit here, but
yeah. Oh, what year did you say
I
that
think
it
it
was
was
installed?
22,
Okay,
22,
22.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was relatively new, and people had talked about the newness of the track, and it was really fun. We that week we had hit all three of the tracks in your area. We had been up to Smith Rock and we came to visit you, and then we went out to Eugene, and we were on the way to on our way to the sand dunes to ride quads for the week, and we ended up hitting the tracks all along the way. So it was really fun getting to see that. And then after I left, because I'm fully passionate about fun in BMX. And that's when I learned about this whole uh, string of shenanigans that you had created called the Bikeaholix.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I didn't know that that was you when I was out there. So will you talk a little bit about the Bikeaholics?
Yeah, for sure. So the funny thing is, there's this guy, Todd Rosenberg, who he was a guy who came out to the track, and he's was there with his daughter, and he was like, "Hey, I just kind of got to town. We're looking at BMX and stuff, and I heard you're a guy who has extra parts." And I was like, "Yeah, I have an extra wheel, that you may need or whatever." So I got his bike dialed, and then we were talking like, "Oh, what do you do?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm in a band, I play, and I travel around and stuff like that." I'm like, "Oh, cool. What's the name of your band?" And he was like, "Oh, it's the Mad Caddies." And I was like, "Dude, I used to listen to you when I was like 15 years old." And he was like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So he was the drummer of the Mad Caddies. And then I just became friends with him. And then he started helping out at the track and doing, camps, clinics, things like that. And he has a studio in his backyard. And one time we went into a studio and just started made a funny song about Bend BMX, and then it kind of just spiraled, into the Bikeaholics, situation. And we were going pretty hard for a while, making new songs and doing things like that. It's definitely slowed down in the last year or so, just with Todd's super busy with other bands and other things that he does. So that's really kind of slowed down. He took a nice good crash in Eugene, so his BMX days are a little bit behind him. I did talk to him recently, and he said he wants to come back out to the track and get some exercise and do stuff like that. But yeah, the Bikeaholics thing was super fun. It was me, Albert Rodriguez, and Todd, who Albert's kids are heavily involved in BMX racing, and also he's also at the track, constantly helping out and part of the board and all that type of stuff. So it's kind of how the Bikeaholics went. I would like to see it go. I'd like us to continue it and keep it going somewhere because we were getting some traction. But when you have three people involved in a project, sometimes it's a little bit hard to keep it going if people are going in different directions. So yeah, I'll take
Yeah.
it for what it was. It was fun. It was a great time, and we may come out with something in the future, on a whim. But that's kind of how that all went about. But yeah.
So my biggest complaint about the Bikeaholics is that the music is actually really good. And my problem is that you've got this song called Motoed. Is it Motoed or I got Motoed?
It's called Moto, yeah, but
Okay.
the chorus I got
And
Moto, yeah.
and it's so catchy that I find myself, I don't know it causes me to lose motivation, but I find myself singing this when I'm in my shoot. And I'm thinking, well, worst case scenario, I get motoed and then I get to go then I get to get off early. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
and
The funny thing about that is we were in Arizona at a national and Todd had got motoed and he immediately went back to like where our pit was set up and he had a guitar there with him and he started singing the song and making it right there after he got motoed. Like it was hilarious how it all came about. And
that's that is so great. Yeah, because I listened to it and the catchiest part was that's okay. I kind of like being off early anyway. And I was like,
yeah,
that's fantastic. And
yeah.
um definitely coming back into racing and I've gotten to live that experience a significant number of times. And so anyway, that's my complaint. And so I don't know if I should file that formally or how that should be done, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Our managers and stuff can handle that stuff. So it's all good.
written requests to them. Uh,
Totally.
but that's cool. And I like the fact that you've done some fun and goofy things. You clearly aren't taking yourselves too seriously. Olivia Armstrong spoke to that. I mean, she appreciates you guys a ton and absolutely loves what you guys have done with the track. You also have Stay Rad. And so will you share a little bit again about that?
Yeah, for sure. So being a track operator, we get, the same. It's funny, the awards and stuff that I got when I was a kid was like the same type of stuff that I was receiving, that I was getting for kids and things. And I was like, man, this needs to be changed up a bit. There are other companies out there that have changed it up and have, produced some great products and things. But I have a design background and a manufacturing background. And going back from my snowboard days in Colorado and creating a sunglass company and things. So a lot of different things I've done throughout my life have kind of led me to where I am now with things. I've started projects, like the Bikeaholix and like a sunglass company with other people, and we have different visions. So I decided to kind of start something myself with a vision that I had, and I'm the only one to really answer to. So if the idea is bad, it's on me, type of a situation. And I own up to that. Or I have an idea and I want to be ridiculous and I can just go do it because nobody's telling me no, type of a thing. But yeah, so I basically said, let's create something that gives high quality, products and things to kids to get excited about winning at the track. Just something that's different. And that's what I'm trying to do is just produce high end stuff that makes it easy for tracks where there's less boxes involved because you're not dealing with humongous trophies, which trophies are great. They're awesome, but this is just another avenue to take if you don't want to deal with unboxing all of these things that show up on a huge crate. Because most of the stuff we make is smaller. So it's easier for track operators and their kids are getting excited about it and collecting all of the different things. Everything we do is completely custom from each track to another. So I try not to copy any type of design from one track that I did to another, which can be a lot of design work and stuff, but I have fun doing it, so that's kind of where it all started, and it's been spiraling and getting larger and larger every year, which has been cool to see. But before that, I had a corporate job, and I literally was on a Zoom call doing this meeting, and I said to myself after the call, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not passionate about it. Let me do something that keeps me involved in BMX. If it doesn't work, I can always go back and get a job again in the same type of marketing business or whatever. So let me just try it. And it's 3 years going in. I wake up every morning thinking, like, is it going to continue next month? But it seems to. So it's been pretty cool so far. So yeah, keeps me
That's
going.
okay. You can just thrive on the instability.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean that's what businesses and BMX have to learn to do is you have to learn to embrace it.
Totally,
And
for sure.
no, it's cool. I've really appreciated some of the creativity and the uniqueness of your awards. And speaking to your comment of these awards being the same and some of the older trophies are the same. And I went to a vintage race and I'm always excited about going to the vintage races because the awards are at least something unique. And literally they just gave standard old trophies out, and I was incredibly disappointed because it's I don't really care about points, but it's a non-pointed race and you're paying a premium for it. and then add that onto that you get a lousy trophy, and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
that's lame. But I found myself incredibly disappointed. Your awards were so cool, so I was disappointed that I didn't get one. Because you made those really cool pre-grands awards for Sand
Oh yeah.
Springs,
Yeah.
and they had the tornado and everything. And anyway, I something I'm known for is that I'll just hang around and I'll talk. And they ended up running out, and I don't know, one or two people ahead of me. They was the last award, and I was like, dang it, I wanted one of those. But
Gotcha.
but
You
the
actually
art,
placed, but they ran out.
yeah, yeah.
What place did you get? I'll send you. I got a couple
I
extra ones over here.
For real?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
I got second. I worked really
Oh,
hard for it.
nice. I got you.
Oh
I might
man.
leave it around here. What I got here,
Oh,
though?
oh man.
This isn't planned.
You have made my day.
Right here, it's got your name on it right here, man.
Oh man. I am so stoked.
Yeah,
Oh
for sure.
man.
On the side for you.
Well, thank you. Now I'm just giddy. But it's so cool the way that you incorporated the tornado and the flying debris and everything.
Yeah,
It's really neat. I appreciate when somebody goes above and beyond like that and they try to make something that's unique, because so many of the races run together and obviously everybody's different, but I'm definitely like pretty visual, so photos will spur on a bunch of memories for me, which is why I make a lot of effort to take photos and stuff. And some people really like to live in the moment, and that's how they'll remember it. But those trophies, is we've got them on our shelves, we've got them on the walls, and I can go back and look, and I remember this moment with my kids or with me or whatever the situation is.
yeah. No, totally. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Is just make it so you have something unique from each race. Like I mean, my kids got a room full of trophies, right? And they're just like the same type of trophy. Some of the plaques and stuff are cool because they do have that, vision of a actual race you went to, but it just gets lost. You don't remember it, anything like that. So it's really cool to try to think things up. And when the best thing is when those tracks get to me, like Sand Springs BMX, they're awesome. They always have great ideas, and we go back and forth with stuff, and I love that. Versus I mean, some tracks too, they're just like, hey, make me something cool, So then I start researching their area and looking for things that could be landmarks or something to include with it. And then I'll send them out a mock-up and be like, I have no idea if I'm like completely off on this, but here's something. And that kind of opens up the dialogue a little bit better for what they may want for something. So
Yeah,
it's been cool. But
I
yeah,
like
I'm glad
it.
you appreciate it and you can see the vision that I'm trying to create. Because that's what we're going for. Just everything that's kind of unique, remind you of the race and all that type of stuff. That's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously BMX has been a huge part of your story. Your journey is today. What is it about BMX that has like kept your attention for as long as it has and has drawn you back to BMX in the way that you're involved now?
Yeah, so I would say the thing that's cool about the BMX community, and it's just kind of weird to me because I mean, I've played other sports and stuff when I was a kid, but all of my friends are from BMX, and all of like even my adult friends now are somehow connected through BMX. So the community is really big, and I got out of it for a long time, and then I actually got back into it when I started collecting bikes. So like I remember when my mom passed away, and I was like, I want something to remind me of her. And I remember that she bought me this Mongoose Solution frame. I have it behind me there by that
Oh, that's
jersey.
it.
Yeah, so she didn't buy that specific one for me, but I remembered having that as a kid. So I went on eBay and I was like, I wonder if I could find that frame again. And then sure enough, I like found that frame, the head tube's cracked on it or whatever, but I found it and it just brought me back that like feeling of BMX and just remembering her. So then that spiraled into going in and collecting way too many 90s bikes and frames and stuff. I had a garage, full of stuff. I ended up having to get rid of some of it. But that kind of and doing that process and talking to all these collectors and all of these people, like when you're trying to find a specific part, from the 90s or whatever, the community is so big in that, and like you're just immediately friends with everybody, that you're talking to that you've never even seen or anything like that. So that kind of like that community really brought me, back into it with the collecting. And then when I decided to go back out to the track, it just like, just lit a fire again and just brought back my childhood, and then realized that you can still do it as an adult. And then you have kids that are involved in it. So now, you're watching them race and you're living your childhood through them and seeing they're getting friendships out of the whole thing. And it's just a cool cycle, to be a part of. And really thinking back to my Chandler BMX days and how what they did at the track and how they made me feel as a kid, and then trying to do that again for other kids. And it's just it's a cool just circle of life that's geared around BMX, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Those relationships that are built are so fun to go back and talk about, and to be able to like maintain some of those relationships as a result of it, or to be able to build relationships using using BMX as the springboard into the relationship. And there are so many stories. And one of the things that I think is absolutely fascinating, and I've fallen in love with the vintage old school BMX community, and going out to those events, which I think if you can, either Dirty Fest in June or Frogtown in September, oh man, like what you were talking about, you'd have so much fun being
Yeah.
around these people. And you you get to talk to these people that there aren't many other sports where you can meet the founding pros or the founding industry members from a sport, but BMX is unique in that regard.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. It is pretty wild to think, you can literally talk to people who created even a product or a new way of doing things, just because it's not that old of a sport, which is pretty cool. It's a cool environment to be a part of.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, you can have conversations with people like have conversations still, not that he's around those events a whole lot, but Lynn Caston, you could have a conversation realistically with him about the first BMX forks.
Yeah.
And you can have conversations with these people that created these products that now and for the last 20, 30 plus years have been, that's just how they're done. Like
Yeah.
BMX forks really haven't changed since Lynn came out with the Redline fork. And that's wild that you can still go back that far and have those conversations. And then you have conversations with people that I've got an 82 MX2, and just riding past people, it starts conversations, or my Boss Cruiser, that starts conversations, or the
Yeah.
99 Schwinn Superstock, that starts conversations as well. So
Yeah. No, it's a really cool thing to be a part of. I mean, I love the old bikes, and then when I got into it, I saw the new stuff, which is awesome too, to see that it has evolved. It's like you still have the aspects of how a bike was built, and then you see how much it's good what it's gone into. Like when I got back into the sport, I was like, what's Chase? Like, what's this? Like, I had no idea what these new bike frames were, these new companies were. And then to learn that like Christophe Levesque is the one who kind of started that situation. I remember him as a pro coming up and like always watching him and stuff, and seeing that he's still involved in the BMX community and stuff, and creating a brand, and top pros are racing it. And it's really cool to see how it's all evolved.
At this time, I want to give a special shout out and thank you to our 2025 sponsors who are helping us make the mission of BMX Breakthrough happen, which is to grow the sport at a local level. These sponsors, you can find more about them in the description, and then you can use their coupon codes. And you may be saying, I don't need a coupon code, but I would ask you, please use that coupon code as a way to help us all track what we're doing together. It helps them, it helps us, it helps everyone. So at our gold level, we have Box, Mongoose, and Pro Lids. At the silver level, we have Dan's Comp, LRC, and Pro Start. And at the bronze level, we have Command Aviation, Danger Snacks, Fly Racing, Gear Blocks, Justin Shepard Title Examiner, Lincoln Park BMX, Sign Dog Northwest, Sound Cedar Lumber, and Tasco. Once again, you can follow the links in our description to find out more about these phenomenal brands. You can find the coupon codes for some of them available there. And thank you so much to our 2025 sponsors. Now back to our episode.
So what were some of your favorite tracks growing up?
So my stuff was all Arizona based for the most part. I was at Black Mountain BMX when they had the tunnel, so that was super cool. I always remember that. And there's always jokes about like bringing the tunnel back and stuff, which would be absolutely amazing. But Yeah, so Chandler BMX and Black Mountain BMX were really just my go-to tracks as a kid. Just on weekend nights and back and forth there. There was a national at Westworld, which is where they do car shows and stuff, now. But that was ultimately I was just like a local racer. I went to a race in I forgot what track it was, but it was in Vegas. It was a Gold Cup championship, and I'll never forget it because I was in the gate with like Donnie Robinson and Jason Ream, and they I on the way there. I think back then they only gave you like one like a Gold Cup one plate. I don't think it was one, two, or three. And I said to my buddy Jeff, like, man, wouldn't it suck like if you got second at the Gold Cup race and didn't get the Gold Cup plate, And we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm in the gate with guys that are clearly faster than me. So I'm in the gate. We all come out of the gate going into the first turn, like Donnie Robinson, Jason Ream, they all crash in the first turn, and I come out in second place. So I'm in second going through the rhythm section thinking, like, this is awesome. Like, I can't believe I'm in second place. There's nobody around. There's one guy in front of me. I don't remember who it was, but it's last turn. He goes around it. I go around by myself in second place and somehow just crash out of nowhere, like just slide out and I crash. So then I get back on my bike and I run, and I throw it across the finish line, but I'm not attached to it. So then I get DQ'd and I get last. So I literally went from like on the way there talking about, man, wouldn't that suck to get second? Just like totally creating this whole thing before I even get there. In second, crash, get disqualified, get last place. So it was a pretty funny experience. But that was the closest I ever been to beating, Donnie Robinson back when I was, 13 or 12 or whatever.
You almost beat him because he crashed.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that was the closest I came to, but then I didn't actually beat him because I got last. It's funny because he has no idea who I am, because I was just this guy, like, this local racer that like saw him in his power light stuff or whatever, and stuff. So it was pretty funny, but yeah, that was an experience I'll never forget, years ago.
Well, then the question has to be asked: would it have been worse to get second, or was it worse to get eighth?
In the moment, it was worse to get eighth, but now I'm glad I did because now I have the story about it and I still remember it. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah, you might not have remembered it all that much.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think and those memories are just fun to relive and have conversations about. And was that at a track in Arizona?
No, that was in Nevada. Yeah.
Oh, in Nevada, you said. Okay.
Vegas. Yeah, it was an outdoor track I don't remember where it was. It was years and years ago, but yeah.
That's awesome. And then, so you raced for a little while, and then when you got out of it, did you stick around bikes?
Yeah, so I went to snowboarding. I moved to Colorado for a while and was just like a snowboard bum with friends and for about 5 years. And then I had a buddy who lives here now. His name is Atul, and he came to visit in Colorado. And he was like, "Hey, we should get some dirt jumpers and go and check out these trails that he saw or something." I was like, "Man, I haven't ridden bikes in forever. Like, I'm not doing that." He's like, "Oh, come on." So then I ended up getting a bike. I like borrowed a bike and there was like this jump that was maybe like 4 feet long. And I was like, dude, I'm not even messing around with this, I'm not doing it. By the end of the day, I was hitting everything out there, huge jumps and everything. So that kind of got me back into the dirt jumping aspect and stuff. So I feel like once you have it as a kid and as you're growing up, you can get it back pretty quickly, so that's how, and that was back in like 2009, I would say, when I got back into just riding bikes again. And then starting racing and all that stuff when we moved out here and went to the track. So it's been, probably about 7-8 years of being back on the BMX bike. I will say when I became track operator, that the amount of racing that I did definitely went down because I was more focused on the track. And then my kid getting more into it, I was more focused on him. So I haven't raced in probably a year and a half, like an actual, like national or anything like that. But I'll get back out there eventually here, and do it all again. I mean, every time I get back on my bike, I'm like, this is so fun,
Yeah.
Like I love it.
So do you race locals from time to time?
I haven't in a while, probably in about a year or so. But I mean, I'm always out there, making sure the track's dialed and all that type of stuff. And I'll get on the bike occasionally, hit the rhythm section, hit some jumps and do stuff like that, or go out to Smith Rock, and jump there with my kid and stuff. So the focus is definitely more so on running the races and doing all that, with it. So I've taken a back seat and, get to provide that to other kids and my kid and stuff like that. So
that's cool. Well, and that investment to be able to see that in the next generation is sometimes that joy just transfers, and it goes from you having to be out there to now you get to watch them be out there, and you get to provide a place where they can come in and where they can actually develop themselves.
Yeah, totally. It's been great. I mean, I still we'll go hit, I have a dirt jumper also, so we go hit dirt jumps, down the street and stuff too. We on so it's like my riding is really outside of the track, is kind of just because when I'm there, it's more focused on running it and getting things going and all that type of stuff, too.
That's
So
cool.
cool. Yeah.
So, speaking to being a track operator, because I mentioned earlier, made the comment earlier about it being a thankless job, and there's a lot of things that you go through. A lot of people have opinions on how things should be done, and you're out there working a lot. What are some of the more rewarding pieces of being a track operator?
I mean, really, it just comes down to seeing kids be excited on their bikes out there. It's a lot of people don't see what goes on the back end of it, like dealing with everything from talking with the city and applying for grants and all that type of stuff. Um, so there's a lot of stuff that we do that doesn't really get spoken about. Not that we need like, people to know about necessarily, but it's just like the biggest thing is just going out there, seeing kids having a great time. We also have Olivia, who you talked about. She's doing camps and clinics out there and really trying to build in the local schools. So it's cool seeing, I've gone to a couple schools with her too, but it's cool to see her go and talk to these kids who have no idea what BMX racing is, and then they end up coming out to the track, that night, for a race, and then we don't have enough loaner bikes because of all these kids that came in from the local school. So that's the most rewarding part of it, is just seeing like a kid get on a bike, and then there's those few that come out and then they don't come out again, but then there's those few kids that you see them jump on a bike and you're like, this kid's got it, and then they end up keep coming back, and you see them start off on either their Disney bike or the loaner bike, and then they're going to state races and doing all that. So that's really the most rewarding thing about being a track operator, is being able to do this for the kids. It's pretty fun.
I like that. And there is something that happens when those kids go from, just trying this out. I love that stage of kids that are coming in, just trying it out, and then they just end up falling in love with it. And one of the things that you mentioned was running out of loaner bikes. And just as a track goes, now there's always a desire to have more loaner bikes and to be able to do that, but that is so cool. And that's something to absolutely celebrate, is you run out of loaner bikes because there are so many people coming out to try this out. I mean,
Yeah.
and really what's worse than having loaner bikes and 90% of the fleet just hangs there week after week. So running out is definitely the goal.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's been cool. This year we're gonna definitely ramp up because we tried it. The first time we're going to the schools was last year, and then this year she's gonna really focus on getting those riders out to the track, doing those assemblies, and the schools love it too. It gives them something to show the kids that they haven't seen before. We play videos of different races, have two riders, one jumps over another one in the gym, and stuff like that. So it gets the kids excited about it, and then they ask tons of questions, and it's cool to put on an assembly of something that isn't necessarily a normal assembly, and kids get excited about that because it's something different. And then we hand out like free race cards, at the assemblies. So then they come out, give it to their parents, then come out to the track. So we're going to push that a lot this year. Our season just started. Our first race was on Monday. So we have another one today. So Mondays and Wednesdays is when we do our races out here. And we just hope to keep on pushing those schools and getting those assemblies and all that type of stuff.
I love that. What does that process look like? And I don't even think we talked about this when in Olivia's episode, but her going into schools, and commonly it's tough to get into schools. And I understand for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things that people want to go in and lobby for. But what does that process look like of getting the track into the schools, and then turning those conversations into riders in that conversion process?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if because Bend's a smaller town, so I don't know if it's different because it's smaller here or not. I mean, I don't think it should be because it's a big school district and whatnot. But literally, just picking up the phone and calling them and say, hey, we have a local BMX track and we would love to do an assembly and show kids, keep them active on bikes, get them to do things other than sit at home, play video games and whatnot. And there's been zero pushback, to doing that.
Oh.
It's just, yeah, come on out, and they want a brief description of what we're doing, and it's been super chill, for the most part. I don't think we've run into any type of issues at all with that. So literally just having the drive and thinking like, okay, we're going to do this. Let's just do it, is what it's come down to. So we've like this year we look a little bit more professional with, we have a nice looking tablecloth and the whole thing that put a table up. And, we have stickers that we give out to all the kids after it. So they all line up and do stickers and stuff. Really just comes down to also the time, like, are there enough people to volunteer to spend all day at the school? In Olivia's position, in my position, it's a little bit easier, just because we don't have corporate situations where she can kind of just do what she wants necessarily and make her own schedule. So it's worked well, because of that. But it is just kind of hard too, because all of us are volunteers doing this. So we need to make time, away from our lives to be able to do it. We all have jobs and things too. So that's the biggest challenge, is really just getting people that are able to volunteer their time and willing to do it, because it does take away from everyday life, so that's,
Absolutely. And it's not a quick thing. I mean, it takes consistent communication and consistent attention. It's
oh
not
yeah,
just you're not just going to make one phone call and be done, or you're not just going to go into one assembly. It's ongoing. But something that's been done that's really cool here in Tulsa and Sand Springs is that the school districts have started creating teams. And there's a woman that's heading that up, and there's a guy that's teaching, or yeah, he's one of the teachers in the Sand Springs School District, and they're actually bringing out, and they've got these different school district leagues that are coming out, and they're becoming teams, and then they've got a cool way on how they average out points. So just because you have 100 riders and another team or a school has 10, it doesn't mean that the 100 rider school will win, which is really cool. And it's just different because, as we know, not every kid fits into the box of team sports. It's not a one size fits all.
totally. Yeah, that's cool. You mentioned about the schools. So we started taking down the name of the school when the kid comes out. So during mains, we announce, the mains also, like, for the kid, and we try to do it pretty quickly. But every kid, we can't be like, oh, and coming out of Bend, Oregon, and coming out of Bend, Oregon. So we started to write down their school names. So we'd be like, oh, coming out of Bear Creek Elementary, and then say the kid's name and stuff. So that way it kind of sets them apart, from each of the kids, because a lot of them may not be on a team. A lot of them are real beginner, so we'll do that to kind of hype them up. And we've actually thought about that. Like, what about doing custom jerseys for each school, and then the kids, can come in and race for the schools and stuff, which we think would be an awesome idea. We just need, probably a more volunteer base, to like someone to have like, this is what you're going to be heading off, and stuff like that. So that's the challenging part. There's a lot of cool ideas, but then you got to have those people in place to do it, because then I start to like say to myself, like, what are you doing putting something else on your table again? It's just like all these different ideas, and things. So that's the key. And we're really trying to do that this year too, is just get more volunteers out at the track, try to make it a big community of people that are running the track, versus just a few of us making it happen. So that's kind of our big goal this year, is to just get more people involved, from all aspects, and kind of train everyone to be able to do everything. So someone can step into registration, snack shack, whatever. And the more they get involved, then they're going to want to start heading projects like this, like going to the schools and maybe creating teams and things like that too. So we're excited
Yeah,
about where it's going.
absolutely. Yeah. And the monthly coaching call that I'm launching, and it's called Track Forward, and the whole purpose of that is to kind of help track operators to just with some of the sometimes conversational resources, but practical steps on how to build that up. And just like you mentioned, is that you're trying to build that larger volunteer base and having those specific needs and places for people, because as we know, people are eager to get involved usually, and not everybody is, but I think one of the key things to remember is that nobody wants to jump on a sinking ship. Like, it's not like, hey, we're dying for volunteers. We're drowning here. And nobody's like, ooh, I want to fill that role. Like, people come in and go, I guess I can do that. And so if you change that conversation and change that perspective, and have those. So when I walk up and go, hey, Nick, what do you need help with? And we've tried to help tracks to identify, like, what are your top 3 needs and the frequency of those. And it's not, we need someone in the snack shack for the rest of your life, every week for the rest of your life. It's, we need someone in the snack shack once a month. hey, can you do 1 week a month? And a lot of times people will end up, volunteering for more, but once a month is a pretty easy commitment for a lot of people. And so just making it a little bit more practical, a little bit easier to jump on board and get involved, instead of feeling like you have to dive in head first, makes it
Yeah.
more accessible.
Yeah, no, totally. That's kind of the environment that we're trying to create here too, where it's like we don't want you to feel like you're obligated to be here in a sense, like every day and do this or that. So we're trying to make it so it's just a community of people that make it run and make it happen, and don't necessarily feel like if I'm not there, it's all going to fall apart, and stuff. So that's our main goal. This definitely this year is to do some of that because it's like the core people that we've have had for the last few years. Things have come up and they have other focuses in life. So we can't just be like, oh, well, that person's not here, so it's not going to work, and stuff. So that's what we're kind of trying to build out here. So it's definitely coming along. Season's just starting out, but we're super excited about it.
That's awesome. I love to hear that because I think even the recognition that you can't do it all yourself, and you shouldn't. Like that's not who you are. You're not superhuman. You're not you don't have more hours in a day than anybody else, so you
Yeah,
shouldn't be. But also just that realization and acknowledgement that, hey, this can't just be me. It shouldn't just be me. We need to develop this team, and giving people that opportunity in that space, because the reality is somebody else can jump into the snack shack and they're probably better at it than you are. Somebody that's passionate about that, they're going to be better at
totally. Yeah, exactly.
so it's
Yeah,
like
it's fun.
it's like the dynamic of the willing announcer versus the reluctant announcer. Like, all right, and then on the 16 bike, and versus someone that's amped about it and is going to call that race and be someone memorable in the sport. I mean, I look back, my announcer was there every single week, and I don't know that I have found an announcer that I have the same sentimentality toward as the one when I was a kid. And granted, those were more formative years, but you remember those voices. And so that announcer that's the right fit, that goes above and beyond and makes you feel like $1 million when you're on the track, like
Yeah.
that's worth something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, it's like, you got Eric Grindle out there and it's like you remember, him at, when he's at nationals, you get pumped about it. It's just like the way that he brings what he brings to the table, like it's a big deal. So it's cool if you can find, it's like me and Albert jump on there on the mic. It would be awesome to have someone who like was so poised about it, stuff. I mean, Albert does an amazing job, too. And I remember one time we were trying to mix it up and we had Olivia up there. So we do two announcers, like I'll announce the first two straights and he'll announce the next two. So we try to like make it fun, announce all the kids. And then Olivia was up on the hill with us and we were like, all right, I want you to give us a random word. So we have a random word generator. She clicked the button and it would show a word and be like, okay, in these first two straights, you got to somehow fit this word into the into the race. It was hilarious, doing that. So that's super fun to do. Then Albert gets a word and then he's got to try and mix it in somehow, in the racing. So that's a
That's
fun thing
fantastic.
to keep it new and exciting, because even when I'm up there announcing, like I'll catch myself like I have said the same freaking phrase or something or the same thing for the last 5 races or whatever. So let's throw in something to make my mind go a different way or something too. So
Oh, I love that. Yeah, add some fun into it. And the reality is, even if you stumble through words and you're like having fun with it and having a good time, those are the things that people are going to remember.
yeah,
And I mean, really the announcer is there to call the race a little bit, but it's more to keep people entertained. Well, I mean, the reality is if you're sitting on the side of a BMX track and then there's no announcer, it's not that interesting.
it's true.
Um,
Yeah, I
and es-
agree.
and especially for a new family, they have no idea what's out there.
Yeah,
I've gotten to spend some time with Brian Dorsey that owns Danger Snacks, and his mom was Linda Dorsey, and she called races, and I've stumbled across videos of some of the old races that she's called, and the things that she would say are just so fun and entertaining. And even Brian had commented on this video, and I don't know when it was posted, but it was a throwback video, and he's said something to the effect of, "I wish I had my mom's wit," or something like that.
yeah,
And then the interview that I did with Brian is he talks about like that person's job is to guide new families through the race, but then also to make these kids feel like they're a part of something.
Yep.
And so I love the idea of incorporating random words into that because it's going to make your entire announcing structure completely different because you're using words you've never used before.
Yeah, no, totally. It works pretty well. Yeah, so we're gonna do more of that this year too. And then the announcing the kids like when they come out to the gate. I know it can take some time, especially for tracks that have a ton of motos, maybe just doing it for the expert class or something. Um, but when we announce the kids, I mean, they absolutely freaking love it. Like they have their whole thing like, hey, what are you gonna do when you hear your name, or this or that, kind of like the grands, when you come out of the curtain type of situation. So the kids love doing that. So we try to do that, third round or main, if we're doing total points or if we're doing, transfer system. But that way it's just like they look forward to that last race, where they get a flex while they're in the gate or whatever, or, all that type of stuff. So
I
it's super
love that.
fun.
Yeah. Do you know Mike Miller that announces down in Ukaipa?
I don't think so.
Okay, so down in Southern California, Ukaipa, they've got an announcer. His name's Mike Miller, and he raced when he was younger, and he comes out, he announces at Dirty Fest, and he announced at Frogtown, and I've gotten to know him pretty well. The first time we were at Ukaipa, we went out to race, and my father-in-law actually reached out to the track and said, "Do you guys live stream?" And they said no, but found out who my kids were. So then Mike calls me up to the tower and he goes, "Hey, we do this thing every week where we do a moto of the week, and it's just that moto that they announce, and they'll announce every rider, and then they'll film it to do a special a special recap where Mike goes through and he posts this video and talks about these riders and makes them feel a little bit more special. And so anyway, they selected my kids' moto, and my kids weren't fast. They finished in third and fourth places, but they loved it. They got to go out to the first jump and turn around and come back up the
That's,
hill, and it's just something that's kind of unique and um,
yeah.
makes it entertaining.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, even just picking one moto every race night and posting that on social media, so then kids get to, see that aspect of it from a marketing standpoint. That's
Yeah.
a great idea. Yeah, we'll probably end up doing something like that, just having a conversation with you about it. That sounds like a super fun idea,
Well,
to
yeah,
do.
and you could just, I mean, you could have the same like the numbers 1 through 30, whatever your average moto count is, and every week you just grab a random number out of the hat
Yeah.
and you announce that one. And the reality is, whatever riders are in that moto, um, husbands or wives or parents or grandparents are probably going to share that video if their
Oh, yeah.
other person is in it. And so, yeah, from a marketing standpoint, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think that's a
Kind of
great idea. It's super easy to do. I mean, if you think about it, just film one race, have a couple different angles of it, just two different phones and put it together. And yeah, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I love hearing different ideas and things that these tracks do, and that was one of our favorite parts. I mean, the year that we met you, that was 22, and I think I went to 24 different tracks that year. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And my first year back to racing and having taken 20 years off and just started visiting all these tracks around the country and like gleaning from some of them things that they were doing well, gleaning from others things that should not be replicated. Um, and just going in and being like, man, some of these tracks are doing something really cool, and more people need to know about what they're doing. And just having a good time, making fun the priority more than the points that you're coming out to try and earn.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing about, our track too, is we have a great group of kids, and, the new kids that come out, everyone's pretty welcoming, and we'll partner them up with somebody, like say even Olivia's out there and there's a kid and I'm like, hey, Olivia, you can take a couple laps with this kid, who just came out here and stuff. And then so we try to make it a fun environment and not super serious, about things. We do have some great riders that come out, who do all the national series and do the things like that. But the majority of the kids out there are going to be your beginner kids, out there, or your novice and intermediates. So I feel like that's where we kind of tailor things to and make it just a fun environment to be a part of.
Yeah,
So
because the reality is, if you cater to the riders that are out chasing the neg plates and are doing the national series, they're already there. They're gonna come back regardless of if you market to them or not. It's the new riders, the new parents, the ones that don't really know what they're doing. Those are the ones that we got to cater to in order to bring in more families and stuff, which is
Yeah. And
a
turn them
different
into
dynamic.
those turn them into those next national riders and all that type of stuff.
Exactly.
That's
Man,
cool.
yeah. It's been fun talking to you though, Nick. I want to be respectful of your time, and I'm so grateful. I know this took a really long time to finally connect the dots and have a conversation. Um, so I apologize on that, but
No, it's weird. It's good.
I've been looking forward to having a conversation with you um for quite some time, and getting to kind of watch what you've been doing from afar and hearing people's conversations and stories about you. And it's you've got a solid reputation, and just the stuff that you're doing out in the community of Bend is really awesome to see and hear.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's good meeting with you and
Yeah,
being behind the screen here with you with your nice neon sign looking nice and fresh. I like it.
I know it looks so legit, doesn't it?
It's pretty good. My hat almost matches it. We're good to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of redecorating here in the studio at
Nice.
some point, and rearranging of stuff. But no, I'm thankful to get to talk to you, glean some of your ideas, hear about what you do, and then just be able to chat about BMX and the value of it. And
Yeah.
grateful for your time.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And thanks for all that you do and pushing the sport, man. It's awesome.
Right on. Well, thanks, Nick. Have a great day, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Sounds good. See ya.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode. It is because of people like you and our sponsors who make this whole thing possible, because they have a desire to see the sport grow. If you would like to get involved in the mission of BMX Breakthrough, you can start by going to your local track, find a way to volunteer, help out, and serve there. Or you can go to our website, bmxbreakthrough.com, in order to donate, find out about sponsorship, or learn more.